Get ready for another exciting episode diving into the wild adventures of Alexander the Great. This time, he's up against some serious challenges from his enemies. Buckle up. The murder of Darius III by his own satraps did not bring an end to Persian resistance. Bessus, the satrap of Bactria and chief architect of the regicide, promptly proclaimed himself the new great king, taking the name Artaxerxes V. From the remote and rugged eastern satrapies, he sought to rally a new anti-Macedonian front. For Alexander the Great, this presented a dual challenge: to hunt down the usurper and murderer of a king, and to subdue the vast untamed territories of Central Asia. With Darius III dead in the summer of 330 BCE, Alexander the Great might have hoped for a swift consolidation of his conquest of the Persian Empire. He had treated Darius's body with respect, sending it for a royal burial, and positioned himself as the legitimate successor to the Achaemenid throne, partly by vowing to avenge the treacherous murder of his royal predecessor. However, the man primarily responsible for that murder, Bessus, the powerful satrap of Bactria and a kinsman of Darius, had other plans. Having fled eastward after abandoning the dying Darius, Bessus made his way to his stronghold in Bactria, a vast and remote satrapy corresponding roughly to modern Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Bactria, with its mountainous terrain, fortified cities, and warlike population of Iranian stock, was a formidable region, historically difficult for even the Achaemenid kings to control fully. Here Bessus, leveraging his Achaemenid lineage and his control over significant military resources, took the audacious step of proclaiming himself the new great king of Persia. Adopting the regnal name Artaxerxes V, he donned the upright royal tiara Kidaris and began to mint coins. Traditional symbols of Persian kingship, Bessus, as Artaxerxes V, sought to rally the remaining unconquered eastern satrapies, Sogdia, north of Bactria, across the Oxus River, Aria, Arachosia, Dranjana and Scythian tribes, to form a new coalition against Alexander. He argued that he was the rightful successor, defending the empire against the Macedonian invader. His claim, however, was inherently weak. While he was of Achaemenid blood, his legitimacy was deeply tainted by his regicide. Many Persian nobles, even those opposed to Alexander, were horrified by the treacherous murder of Darius. Moreover, Bessus lacked Darius's established authority and the vast resources of the Western Empire, which were now firmly in Alexander's hands. Alexander, after a brief period of rest and reorganization at Hekatompelos in Parthia, and then further east in Susha, near modern Mashhad in Iran, was determined to crush this new challenge. Bessus' usurpation provided Alexander with a convenient pretext. He could frame his continued eastward campaign not merely as a war of conquest, but as a righteous mission to hunt down and punish the murderer of a legitimate king. This narrative might appeal to those Persians who valued dynastic legitimacy and were appalled by Bessus's actions. Before advancing directly against Bessus in Bactria, Alexander first needed to secure the intervening satrapies around. He marched into Hyrcania, a fertile region south of the Caspian Sea, where many of Darius's remaining loyal followers, including the Greek mercenaries under Patron and the noble Artaxerxes, had retreated. Alexander treated these groups with clemency. He pardoned the Greek mercenaries and allowed them to either join his army or depart peacefully. He welcomed Artaxerxes, a respected elder statesman, with great honor, later appointing him to high positions. Nabazanes, one of the conspirators against Darius, also surrendered to Alexander in Hyrcania and, surprisingly, was initially pardoned. perhaps due to Artaxerxes' intercession or Alexander's pragmatic need for experienced Persian administrators, though his ultimate fate is obscure. From Hyrcania, Alexander turned eastward, entering Aria, a satrapy governed by Satrapies, another of the conspirators who had been with Bessus. Satrapies, upon Alexander's approach, initially feigned submission. He met Alexander, pledged loyalty, and was confirmed as satrap. Alexander, seemingly satisfied, left a small contingent of Macedonian troops with him and continued his march towards Bactria. However, no sooner had Alexander departed than Satrapies, instigated by Bessus, revolted. He massacred the Macedonian garrison and began rallying Arian forces, calling on Bessus for support. Alexander's reaction to this treachery was swift and brutal. Upon hearing the news, he immediately turned back, force-marching his army with incredible speed, reportedly covering some 600 stades, about 70 miles, in 2 days, back into Aria. Satrapies, caught off guard by Alexander's rapid return, fled with a small cavalry force, abandoning his capital, Artaxerxes. Alexander pursued him relentlessly, though Satrapies managed to escape for the time being. Alexander then spent some time pacifying Aria, punishing rebellious elements and establishing a new city, Alexandrian Aria, likely modern Herat, to serve as a strategic garrison and administrative center. With Aria temporarily subdued, Alexander next moved south into Drangiana, also known as Zarangiana or Sistania. Barcentis, another of Darius's murderers and satrap of Drangiana and Arachosia, had taken refuge. However, upon learning of Alexander's approach and the fate of Satrapies, Barcentis lost his nerve and fled further east, seeking refuge among the Mountain Indians tribes in the mountainous regions bordering India. He was later captured by them and handed over to Alexander, who had him executed for his role in Darius's murder. Alexander established another city in Drangiana, Prophasia Anticipation, so named because it was here he reportedly first learned of the Philotas conspiracy, a later episode. By the late autumn and winter of 330 BCE, Alexander had secured Aria and Drangiana, effectively isolating Bessus in Bactria and Sogdia. He had dealt with 2 of the main regicides. The campaign, however, had been arduous, fought through difficult terrain against a determined, if fragmented, enemy. Alexander's strategy of swift marches, decisive action against rebellion, and the founding of new fortified cities as centers of control was beginning to take shape as he ventured deeper into these unfamiliar and often hostile eastern lands. Bessus, meanwhile, was attempting to consolidate his power in Bactria. He adopted a scorched earth policy, devastating the land as he retreated before Alexander, hoping to deny the Macedonians supplies. He also sought to rally the fierce Scythian tribes from beyond the Oxus River to his cause. The stage was being set for a challenging campaign in one of the most remote and rugged regions of the ancient world. Alexander's pursuit of Bessus was not just about avenging Darius, it was about asserting his claim to the entirety of the Achaemenid inheritance and crushing any vestige of independent Persian power. If you enjoyed this vlog, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. We've got so much more fun coming your way.